Steak and hungry for kill. Just give me a big helping of mini hook tails. Batten down the hatches, we're about to set sail on another adventure, mini hook tails. Ain't hungry for steaks, ain't hungry for kill. But give me a big helping of mini hook tails. Batten down the hatches, we're about to set sail on another adventure, mini hook tails. Steak, kill, big helping, mini hook tails. Hatches, set sail, mini hook tails.
Yeah.
I'll never forget the day I was woken up by a phone call instead of my alarm. And my mom tells me that Terry killed himself last night.
I knew something was messed up when JJ called me in the morning, because JJ and I always have a certain time that we call each other. And yeah, so I knew something was off when he called. But when he first told me what happened to Terry, I had to ask, are you joking? And one thing I figured out about life is a lot of times you don't get a definite answer, and so we'll never know why Terry went. That's just never going to come to fruition.
That was the worst day of my life. I mean, I was devastated. All I could do was cry and scream F words. I lost my best friend, my little brother. It was like losing a child. Like, I'm still not over it.
Man, I love Terry. He was probably the funniest dude I ever met, just fucking hilarious. And I knew the guy since he was 10. I'd been a brotherly figure to Terry before Meat Hook. And then after Meat Hook started, there's something special to be said about creating a song with somebody, actually putting your creative juices together. It's like, I compared it to like having kids, so here's me and this guy, we had about 50 kids together, and all of a sudden he's just not there anymore. It's tough to deal with. It still is tough to deal with.
Terry used to wear this hat that said legendary. And eventually we came up with the word legendary, which I think speaks for itself. Because Terry was a fucking legend, that's for damn sure.
Man, I miss Terry. He was the balance of the band, I'd get in a fight with JJ and he'd run the Terry to deal with me, or if I had an issue with JJ, I'd run the Terry and he'd be the balance between the three of us, It'd always depend on what he would say to bring us back together. So JJ and I, since Terry's gone, have had to deal with that, figuring out how to make that balance again.
When we lost Terry, we didn't just lose our brother or our guitar player. We lost a lot of music that never got recorded, and all the good times that we had together making that music. Like, we lost a piece of ourselves.
We tried to keep Meat Hook going, but we had a spare guitar player. He was Brenda's neighbor, JJ's mom's neighbor, and we played the following Dirt Bar Jam after that, but it just wasn't the same. All we tried to put in, it just wasn't the same without Terry. Once we had issues with the guitar player, we realized that we had to do something else, and that's how Team Hook came around. Put a lot of effort into, making sure JJ and Terry's dad, Jeff, were okay after the fact, because it was a fucked up situation, man. We were all really hurting Terry disappearing. And keeping our heads above water was the goal, you know. And I tried helping out as much as I could.
Not even a year later, my dad got diagnosed with emphysema. And then he got pneumonia. And then after some false negatives, I'm pretty sure he died from COVID-19. And of all days, it was on my fucking birthday. April 2020. It was the height of COVID. And it was my 40th birthday. So we had this socially distanced birthday party planned at Lake Mariah State Park. And that's how I found out that my dad was dying, is he didn't answer his phone. So I called my brother, and he told me he just dropped him off at the hospital.
Fortunately, Jeff, our band mascot, who would always yell out "Meat Hook," who was like a second dad to me. Fortunately, Jeff ended up drinking too much. We lost Jeff less than a year after Terry died. He just, you know, he died technically of pneumonia. He died technically of pneumonia-related issues, and at the time, I think he was one of the first to go from COVID. But I always say Jeff, he died of a broken heart, man. He couldn't handle losing his son, and so JJ and I not only lost our, brother and our bandmate, but less than a year later, we ended up losing our dad as well. And so it was quite the double punch, quite the lethal combination.
Speaking of legends, the man, the myth, the mustache, my dad playing drums since before we were born and being in bands, heavy metal dude. I mean, even back in the 80s with the mullet, that motherfucker was intimidating. I mean, talk about legendary.
Those folks dying, and I've had a lot of friends die, but none of them quite hit as hard as losing both Terry and Jeff, and it's something that still haunts me to this day, man. There's certain things that I can't see or hear without thinking of Terry and Jeff. They've made such a big impact on my life that they're inevitably a part of it.
We didn't just lose a dad. We lost our biggest fan, one of our biggest inspirations and influences. I mean, we lost another big chunk of our life.
I think one way I've been dealing with it is just try to live as much as I can and try to honor those two by living a life, by being funny on Terry's behalf. Went to Slayer at Riot Fest yesterday, and I'll be damned if Jeff wasn't in my heart, man. I fucking let out a couple guttural cries for Jeff, and I don't know. I think part of it is just not dealing with it emotionally, and I think at this point I haven't really grieved as much as I should,
One of the things that eats at me the most is Terry never met my son, and then my dad died before the twins were born. And I mean, that's devastating in itself, just because my dad loved his grandkids so much, and never got to meet the twins.
But that was a fundamental shift in JJ and my life. That was a fundamental shift in our musical career. Everything was different after Jeff and Terry died, man. Everything.